What's up, Pirates? Ray Talks here with Awaken TCG, and today we have a very special guest. By the title, you guys can see he's here with me right now, Yonas Abraham. He just finished winning the NA Nationals tournament, which is insane. So, nice to meet you.
Hello, guys. Yeah, thank you, Ernesto or Rafe. Pleasure to be on the channel. I'm Yonas Abraham. I miraculously won NA's first nationals
Too
for One
humble.
Piece. And I'm really happy to be on this channel. I've been watching your show for the past, or your channel for the past couple of months now, and I've been enjoying every second of it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's go ahead and get started. To be honest with you, I want to get into a little bit before One Piece. Have you been playing card games for a while? And if so, like what games? Like what got you into it? And what's your experience?
That makes sense. So disclaimer, I'm 26 now. When I was 16 and in high school, I started playing Magic the Gathering. That's like the worst game to possibly get into when you're as a kid because it's like so expensive. It's kind of absurd.
Yeah.
But to kind of fund my gameplay, I started just trying to get as good at that game as possible. So I started playing that game for 10 plus years, kind of grinding nonstop to kind of make it so I could play like expensive formats like Modern and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Never got particularly great at the game, never made the Pro Tour, never did anything sick like that. But after like nearly a decade long stretch of playing that game, one of my friends just brought some One Piece cards near like the end of OPO one
Uh-huh.
and just taught me how to play. So it was just like he had a Kaido deck in
Uh-huh.
OPO one, and he made me play against Dofi, and I was just like, this matchup is miserable.
Sucks. He
But
was setting
here
you
we
up.
are.
He was setting you up.
Yes, sir. But ever since then, it's just been history.
Nice. Okay, so you started off with Magic. I've collected a bit before. Never really played Magic, but it's definitely like you said, it's an expensive game to get into, especially when you're 16 and you don't have any sort of income. uh,
Yes, it was so difficult.
but okay, so now you're playing One Piece. Give me a
Mhm.
little bit more information on before your Nats win. Like, how did you do in previous tournaments? Like, did you have any other big placements? Like, have you been performing well for a while, or is this like your first? Obviously, it's the biggest win ever, but like, have you
Mhm.
gotten something like? Do you feel like there's another achievement that you've had before that like kind of not rival it, but just like feels just as good?
Yeah, I surprisingly been going under the radar, but I have a pretty decent resume kind of pre-national somehow.
Hmm.
So my first ever Treasure Cup was an online one. It was OPO 2 and I played Smoker.
Uh-huh.
And I top eighted that in my first
Oh,
ever event, which was absurd.
okay.
So that was my first serial Luffy. In OPO 3, I got another top in an online event with Lucci.
Okay.
So I just loved playing like random black
Uh-huh.
cards. Four drop Kuzan's been my jam since the dawn of time. Um, and in OPO 4 in Knoxville, the first tournament that ever happened for OPO 4, I top aided with Katakuri. That's probably one of my favorite tops ever.
Hmm.
That was the event where the top cuts ended relatively late or started relatively late,
Hmm.
and I was gonna miss my flight. So right after top eight ended and all of us were locked for our Luffy's, I dropped from the tournament and headed straight to the
Yes,
airport.
I remember. I vividly
Uh,
remember someone saying, "Oh, someone in top eight dropped." I'm like, was there someone else that dropped?
yeah, it was me and one of my friends, Fern. We just immediately dropped. I went to the airport. He went to Six Flags. So
Yeah,
we all had different
yeah, I remember. I
priorities.
was like, "There's no way," but it made sense, right? The best pricing was locked in, so you had to, you had to catch your flight.
That's true. I had to let Cross try to win it, but
Uh,
he got destroyed by Will to Win in top four.
yeah, very unfortunate. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it seems like you've definitely had success before your national win, which is your biggest, anyone's biggest win is possible so far. Um, I like that you've definitely been playing decks that not are like necessarily not tier one, like super meta, right? You said Rob Lucci, Smoker. While good decks, probably not the best at the time you were playing those. So it's definitely very
Mhm.
respectable. Just like me, I
Appreciate it.
I played Kinemon in set two, my very first tournament. I went X3, I think, and I got a top 64 card. So that kind of opened it up for me. I'm like, wow, off no practice, like no official trend, like never played a card game. So I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. It's cool to see. Like you said, Kuzan was your jam, but I see you on Nell now. No, 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 Sakazuki for you.
Oh, geez. I played so much Sakazuki before Sakazuki even came out in the
Hmm.
US. I was just jamming on Sim for hours.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not entirely sure if you've played much Sakazuki, but I've been trying to play that deck for so long, and I could never figure out a way to be consistently decent in the mirror.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of like Rebecca Hinalucci races where like the person that has more wins a lot,
Yes.
or sometimes it's just like you get on board and your opponent stumbles a little bit and you
Uh-huh.
play a Sabo and the game's kind of clocked or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
immediately over. Um, it's not really a lot of decision making when both players are pretty competent. So
Hmm.
like I didn't want to be in a position going into these like high level events and I'm just playing the mirror with not a really powerful game plan trying to beat other very good people.
Gotcha.
It's just kind of luck of the dice. So
Yeah.
that was the main reason why I didn't play
That
Sakazuki.
makes sense. That 100% makes sense. And playing Sakazuki, uh, it takes a little bit more like mental strength when it comes to the longer events. Uh,
That is an understatement. That was a huge factor for me as well. Um, when I'm playing Enel versus Sokka, I feel like I take like less than a third of the total amount of elapsed time
hmm.
during the event.
Hmm.
I have my turns planned out 2, 3 turns ahead. You just play your 4 drop, play your 5 drop, play your 7 drop.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. And then every single turn, they kind of have to do this advanced calculus
Yeah.
to try to figure out how to deal with your board
They
every
got to get
single
their
time.
calculator
I,
out and they're like, okay, can I kill these two on the board?
Yeah, I could not do that for 10 rounds. I could not do that for the rest of top 64 the day afterwards. I was barely sleeping anyways, so
Yeah.
that extra stuff would make things way too hectic.
Yeah. And I think I can definitely agree on that same, you know, thought process you have on why you chose no. I'm same for me, right? Same exact reason why I was on the no. I just wish that uh, I could have trained with you before Nats a little bit. Okay, so let's get into your your day one experience. Let's not talk about the logistics on how it happened. That's already out
That's
in the
perfectly
air.
fine by me. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get into your matchup. So I can see here you went against 5 Sakazukis, 2 Anelmirs, and 1 Purple Luffy. What do you think about that?
So the fact that I only played against very like expected decks was like a huge boon for me. Like I've memorized those matchups like to a T. I feel like I've played every single game that I played in Nats
Yeah.
while testing. Like
Hmm.
I've memorized these games. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. There wasn't really much thinking for the most part. Only 1 Purple Luffy is always the dream, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I was able to beat that one person mostly due to the fact that he was being relatively conservative, which was really interesting. He didn't want to attack with his last attacker most of the time, his last like kid, and just trying to be a little bit more conservative.
Gotcha.
So I was able to conserve a little bit more cards, and he wasn't able to like die nearly as much. But my hand was just top end heavy, so I was able to keep gaining life, keep gaining life. And then the last time he had to go for game, I hit a Sanji, so that was fortunate.
Oh, yeah. No,
Um,
I mean that always feels good, right? I think for me, uh, we got the repair round one or round three, I guess, and then I went from a Saka to a Pluffy, so I was like, "Ah, I already knew this is
oh,
not gonna be my tournament.
Jesus.
um,
I went from a Ploofy to a Ploofy, so it was all just like, sure.
um,
I was miserable, had a hope, a little bit of hope, and I went back down right to where it was, but
yeah.
it was all good.
So, when I look at your first 10 rounds in Swiss, it reminds me of when I do this in every interview. I always bring up my win. I I can definitely see that you versing only one Pluffy definitely helped you that first day. Because obviously it's a bad matchup, right? If you start
Yeah.
versing the best players on a matchup that's already unfavored for you, it gets very hard to win those. Um, when I won mine, I went up against so I was on green purple Dofi in set 4 before the red bands. I went up against 6 red decks, but for me that was comfort because I had practiced Law, Zoro, Whitebeard. I
Mhm.
had played no games against Rebecca or Croc, so if I were to have seen those, which are unfavored matchups for green purple Dofi, it would have been bad for me. Um,
Those were so bad. Those were like barely playable
so
matchups.
like I look at this, I'm like, okay, a little bit of luck comes into your rounds going into Top Cut from Swiss. You can always have a better bracket than someone else. Um,
Mhm.
uh, so we got your first 10 rounds out of the way. You only lost one round to a Saka round 9. Uh, very impressive, going what is that, 7-1 or 9-1 because of the buys.
Yeah, if you include the buys, it's 9-1, which is like super amazing. I beat a couple people that I think are very, very challenging opponents.
Hmm.
Round eight, I played against Impact.
Okay.
That was a really interesting game. I think he made like one macro level decision that was kind of wrong.
Hmm.
We talked about it afterwards, and that would have probably edged the game in his favor.
Gotcha.
But like my hand was just seven drop Nels and Yamatos, so it's kind of hard to beat those
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and then I played against Kevin Zhao, I think the number one on the list right now. Shout out to him. The man's
Wow.
absurd.
Yeah.
And he missed one pivotal 2K and like the developmental turns. So I attacked six into his face. He couldn't counter out of it. And then a seven with
Uh-huh.
an Anel made things really nightmarish. And that kind of closed the game on the spot.
Yeah. So
But other than that, yeah, there's a lot of just like really good players near the end, really technical players.
yeah.
But I ended up drawing pretty well in terms of drawing Anels and Yamatas for sure.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that usually happens where, your first couple rounds, you don't really recognize the people you're playing, but then as you get, higher into the Swiss rounds, it's like, okay, now I know who I'm versing. I know who I'm playing. These guys are good. Let me, put my A game, and let's try to get some wins.
Yes, sir. Trying to get that bread for sure.
So okay, so that was your first day. Day going into day two is top 64. How did you feel going into your first matchup? It was against the Sakazuki, right? How did you feel like before the games even started? You're getting to the venue. Were you excited? Were you nervous? Give me, walk me through your emotions as you were preparing yourself.
So in terms of like preparation, like the tournament ended around like midnight. I got to
Hmm.
my place at 12:30.
Hmm.
I could not sleep until like 3 in the morning. So like I got maybe like 3, 4 hours of sleep before I head to the venue. So I'm
Uh-huh.
still kind of groggy, but the power of coffee does wonders.
Yes.
Um, Going into it, I felt pretty good. The gauntlet of Sakazuki is always going to be terrifying,
Hmm.
but having like first seed is always like huge bane or boon. Sorry, not bane.
Hmm.
I was sixth seed, I believe. There were not many notable people that I remember that were above me aside from Jackson Huang at fifth. So like in terms of like people that I recognized, I felt like okay, I'm or people I don't recognize, I have a higher seed than them for the most part. So I'm
Hmm.
gonna be like, okay, I got to go second against Sakazuki. I got
Yes.
to choose what I want to do against a bunch of everything else. So I'm gonna be comfortable in that regard. Um, but I was just like, let's just get in the zone. Let's play one game at a time and just hope my deck aligns in the right way.
Uh-huh.
Um, that my first Sakazuki opponent, I did not recognize him, but he was still like playing pretty well.
Hmm.
Game one, I think he made like a small like misplay. And that kind of steamrolled where it was just like seven drop an L, seven drop an L, and then like I'm not entirely sure if you put it from the Sakazuki's perspective, but you're just like, what am I supposed to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
sometimes? So top 64 kind of went the same way. But I was feeling very good, very in the zone. Did not eat much that morning, so I was mostly just like very focused,
Uh-huh.
trying to be as attentive as possible. Didn't feel too lethargic or anything, and that felt like a huge boon as well.
Okay. No, yeah, 100%. Like, especially going into your first match, and then, you get the first round over, you're in top 32 off of a 2-0. You must be feeling, a lot better. Didn't drop a game so far.
Yeah,
You're continuing your great play from the day before. Got a little bit of coffee in the system. That always helps.
it helps plenty.
Okay, so
um,
we get into top
Next
32.
was top 32. This is the game that matters. This
Hmm.
is like where like I was probably the most stressed throughout the
Yes.
entirety of day
You go
two.
from here from
Mostly,
pricing to here.
yeah,
So,
it's a times six. It felt like because like the top player promos were nice, and you probably got like a fair amount of money for those.
hmm.
But like once you get to 16, that's where the sheet comes in,
Hmm.
and there were plenty of like monetary offers on those. So I was just like, if we can get here, everything's gonna be great. So we're praying. Another Sakazuki, I'm still second. And as my friends like to call it, I drew the drifting hand, the Tokyo drift, where it's just Ohm Dog into Ohm
Home
Dog
dog.
into an L.
Okay.
So like
That's all you need.
that hand's just that's all you need. And if they don't have the Ice Age Lucian curve, it's really hard for them to catch up.
Uh-huh.
And that's exactly what happened game one. And then game two, it was just Holly into Kadatsu into more Nels, which is still more obnoxious.
Yeah, yeah.
Drew pretty fortunate, but That's what you're there to do, right? It's just draw the good half of your deck half the time.
Yep.
So that was another pretty comfortable win. He had Kaidos in his deck that I saw game one, which was scary for sure. I'm not entirely sure how you feel about playing against Kaido, but that card is so obnoxious.
Yeah, I mean, there's times where, so my brother, my training partner, he plays Saka. So most of my experience, the whole set was just Anel Saka. I felt like it was a solid 60-40 me until he teched that in. Soon as he teched that in, I had to change up my play, start playing a lot differently. If they're ever in a comfortable position and they're at 2 life, and they have a small board and you don't have too much going on and they drop that thing, that +4 resource that they get is just, and that body you can't remove, it just means the end of the game. That's how I feel.
That's also how I felt. It was a very similar experience when we were testing in Arizona, where a lot of my games, I was just trying to quote unquote hard starve, where you're just like going to slow the game down, hope Sakazuki runs out of resources as much as possible, and just like keep playing your guys and never attacking with them. But the second that Kaido comes down, all of the math kind of breaks down. Drawing 4 extra cards, having a 12k body you can't kill. It's just so miserable.
Yeah.
A lot of people in Arizona were playing like 3 Kaidos just to beat Anel. They were playing like the 3rd Ice Age just to make sure they can kill my 7-drop Anel's on curve. They were just ready for me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, leading up to the tournament, I was on Twitter just, making sure no one ran the 10 cost. I'm like, 10 cost is not good in Saka. Don't run it. Do not run it. Trying to get people to, steer away from that.
100%.
Which is funny.
When I saw in Europe, I'm not sure I pronounce his name. I think it's Rivoye or something, the second place. He was playing 2 Kaidos, and I was terrified. Shout out to him for topping still, getting into Worlds. I'm super excited to play against him. But I was really hoping that the NA meta wasn't shifted too much by his top.
Yeah.
Because I know Fabian won and ended up playing 0. And the less Kaidos there were in this tournament, the better.
Yeah. Okay. Finish that. Yep. You got your sheet. You're feeling good.
Yeah. That was everything. That was like the huge like weight off my shoulders. Like everything after that, sure there's like finalist prizing, sure there's just like getting into Worlds, but like this was like the main goal that I had in mind. Just like make sure this happens. This is just like such a huge moment just because I have this sheet. If I want to keep it, and that's wild of me, but mostly just because of the money is super awesome.
So like that was your goal, going into it. Like, okay, if I top 16, that's what I'm shooting for. That was your goal going into this.
That was the ultimate goal. Yes, like getting into Worlds is always like the stretch goal. Like if you go to Worlds and everything's super amazing, but like the sheet is what we're always aiming for. Have a realistic goal. There's like 2,000 people. What are the chances you win it?
Yeah.
So like that was there. Everything else, I'm going to play the best of my ability, and everything is going to just hopefully end up well. After that game, I realized that my side of the bracket is like 3 Anel people. So I have been testing the Anel mirror probably way more than I need to be completely honest. Colloquially, there's like a group of us that have been playing Anel for so long, and I've been the person that's been teaching people how to play the matchup. We've been creating our own church of Anel.
Where was my invite?
I know. So the followers of the church were all just talking about the matchup, and we've developed pretty good theory on how to approach it. And I was like half joking about the fact like if I lose an Anel mirror today, I am not playing this game ever again. I've tested this thing way more than anyone else has. I feel very comfortable with it.
Okay.
Top 16, I go into the matchup and I realize he's playing the Big Mom version. We can talk a little bit about how people feel about those decks. I think both of them have their merits. I think the Big Mom version's better at like quote unquote hard starving, like we talked about, because it has ways to search for bigger bodies, which is like really good against Sakazuki sometimes. But my problem with that deck is that you are at the mercy a lot of your opponent's draws. You're like a very you play your big thing, hope your opponent can't kill it. You're making the tempo go a little bit slower and hope your opponent can't keep up with you in terms of card advantage.
Yeah.
Whereas the current version of Sky Island, it leans more aggressive, but you can still do a lot of things to put your opponent in a kind
Hmm.
of weird bind
Hmm.
where you're not entirely sure if I'm going to be rushing down, going to be going super slow, and you have to make your opponent or your soccer opponent kind of think a little bit
Yeah,
harder
yeah.
about
It
that.
gives
So that's
you
the main reason why I like Sky Island.
it gives you just so many more options rather than being hard stuck, starving. Because like you said, Big Mom, while you can starve or you can starve and you can search out, your katakuri's and then put the pudding
Mhm.
back in that you just search the katakuri and keep searching the katas. You don't really have that board development that Enel Sky Island does, right? So just being able to keep your opponent on their toes when deciding how you're gonna address the tempo is really good.
100%. And that matchup is kind of weird from the Enel mirror, because on one side they have more quote unquote big bodies, which is
Hmm.
like the main aspect of the mirror that's so scary.
Hmm.
The more big bodies you have, generally the better. But the weird thing that kind of breaks like that mirror match is seven drop Enel.
Hmm.
If you're first and you play a seven drop Enel into another seven drop Enel, the game is no longer about who drew more Yamatos. The
Hmm.
matchup's about how many times can you counter out of seven.
Yeah, yeah,
um, which is like really scary when you keep a hand with like Yamato, eight drop.
yeah.
So that's how I won my first game against the Enel mirror in top 16.
Hmm.
And in the second game, I ended up drawing more Katakuris than him somehow, and that ended up being the matchup. So like, I drew three of them, and I was like, Jesus, I'm like, all right, this is the
We'll
plan.
take it. We'll take it.
So yeah, we'll take it. So I was perfectly fine doing it that way. Um, still riding a high, going to top eight. It's another Enel mirror.
Yes.
I'm still higher seed, so we run the gauntlet and another Big Mom version.
Oh
Shout out
wow.
to Jordan Palmer. So I think the Big Mom version was doing very well this tournament. I was like very surprised because
Hmm.
I wasn't a huge fan of it when I was testing it, but
Hmm.
it was crushing people. Um, Similarly, I drew double Yamato game one, so that was like a very like grindy game. Um, and game two, I think he drew all four Thunderbolts, which was so bad.
Yeah.
Like in the late game, or like in the mid game, he hit a Shirahoshi, discarded two, and then for an Enel ability, he discarded the one and showed me the last one at the end
Oh
of the game.
no.
And I was just
Hate
like,
to
this
see
is
it.
so miserable. I hate to see it. It's the main reason why I cut them from my deck. I've
Hmm.
talked about it like on and on in other channels as well. But yeah, drawing that card's so heinous in so many matchups. So like, and in the Elmir, it's especially punishing. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean it makes sense, right? Like you said, he saw four of his Thunderbolts that could have been all cards that could have potentially helped him in some other way. Um,
yep.
so
He ended the game with like 13 cards in hand and like, or so he started when I went for lethal, he had 13 cards in hand and like half of them were bricks just because he had so many. It was just like Jesus
that's how I
Christ.
feel right now playing Uta. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah,
I got like
it's like
24
surprisingly
bricks.
a lot of bricks in that deck. It's so weird.
Anyways, okay, so you get rid of two Sakas in the bracket. You just get rid of two Anels. You just make top four. And going into this, you have not lost a single match. So how are you feeling? Are you like, okay, I'm going to just keep the momentum going, not trying to like do too much, just trying to stay in that zone? Is that what you were thinking?
That was like the main thing I was trying to do the entire time because I knew going into that last round, if I won, I was playing against Zoro, and like internally, I know that matchup's pretty good.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like whenever I play the matchup, I feel very
Yeah.
comfortable. But I also know that he just beat an Enel while he was on camera,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, all right, that's terrifying. Let's humble myself a little bit
Yes.
and let's try to get into this game. Try to be focused about trying to win this one and just like do the best we can.
Yeah.
Um,
So how'd it go? How'd it go?
but how did that game go? That was a wild one. So we had some of the people that created the game, some of the developers were just like watching the game on the side,
Hmm.
and I don't know what happened, but my deck was just like very kind to me that game. So opening hand game one, I choose to go first,
Hmm.
which I talked to Richard about it, and he said that like he's not entirely sure which one's better, but he thinks going second's better from both sides, and I think he's right. So I made a mistake there.
Hmm.
Um, and I just drew like Gadatsu Yamato.
Oh,
Like that's just like the dream, right?
yes. Yes.
Those for people that don't play Enel much, those like the two main cards that are like insane in
Hmm.
the Zoro mirror
Hmm.
because all that really matters is just like stopping their board presence and just gaining life and just like trying to not counter out of any swings if you don't have to.
Hmm.
Just like build like the most unbeatable wall that is your
Yes.
hand and they
Yeah.
just can never win. Um, So drawing both of those made things super easy. He played like an early Zoro. I just like Gadatsu'd it. And like my Yamato into my Yamato when he put me down to 0 was just like basically unplayable. And I drew like no other cards with no counter on them.
Uh-huh.
So like I didn't have any other way to gain life, but I had plenty of pressure
Hmm.
because the second I played my Yamato, I put him down to 3. Then I put him down to 1 with my second when I played my second Yamato. And then it was kind of all she wrote from there.
Yeah, and then now you have
Um,
this board that Zoro can't come back from.
yeah, he just can't come back.
Yeah.
um, game two, that was the silliest game by so much. I mulliganed, and because my hand wasn't particularly good in the early turns,
Uh-huh.
and I mulliganed to like the most atrocious hand I've ever seen in my entire life. We're talking like beige Satori, like 7-drop Anel. None of these cards matter in this
Yeah.
matchup.
Yeah.
And then my first life ends up being Shirahoshi.
Oh.
So I'm just like, this is like so unbelievably unfair. Then I trigger a Shirahoshi, then I trigger a Shura, then I build the curve I need,
Oh.
and I still end up finding multiple Yamatos in my life.
Yeah, that
So
feels
it's
good.
like, so like this is like so unbelievably absurd. I ended up triggering like a random beige that was like irrelevant and not consequential to me when in the game,
Uh-huh.
but it was still like very funny to reveal and just like kind of have as a iconic moment. So I was just like, I'm just gonna make this as lighthearted as possible, but like I'm just like hitting every single
Yeah.
perfect thing when I'm
Yeah.
playing this deck. Like today is my day. It felt
Yeah.
like it was just like sure, let's
Yeah.
just move
I
on.
mean, hey, everyone has those days, and you just happen to have it in the best possible moment ever, right?
100%.
The cards are doing what they need to do while you're playing at your highest level. It's kind of hard to beat someone when that's happening, right?
That is true.
You're playing like the best player in the world, drawing like the best player in the world. Um,
It's
I
kind
feel
of hard
bad
to
for
beat
that
that
Zoro, but
combination.
hey, to be fair,
Yeah.
the matchup is already favored heavily into Nell, right? So
Yep.
you probably didn't need to see that perfect alignment of how your deck was giving you your cards to win it.
Mhm.
It's always nice.
Yeah, it's still always nice. Like the comfort was kind of hurt, unbelievable. But like every single time I hit an absurd trigger, I was just like, this is kind of. I'm just like laughing. Like I'm like very like out loud laughing because this is like so insane.
Okay, so you beat the Zoro, which was probably matchup wise probably your easiest matchup in the top cut so far. So that probably felt good. And then now you're in top two. You're guaranteed to go to Worlds. How are you
This
feeling?
is
Like, did you instantly like get hype and like I'm going to Worlds? Like, did the adrenaline kick in, or were you able to just stay calm?
I was still in the the gaming zone. It was weird. I mean, right afterwards, a bunch of my friends were watching the game, and there were like hugs all around.
Hmm.
Obviously, just because like the fact that I go to Japan is like
Hmm.
so absurd and
Yes.
represent. But I was just like trying to get in the zone and how to figure out how to win next matchup because I
Yes.
was pretty sure I was playing either Red Purple Luffy at the time or
Saka.
Jackson Huang on
Hmm.
Sokka.
Hmm.
So which is just like I haven't tested that much against Red Purple Luffy. I thought the matchup was great, but like I was watching a few videos from Victor, and he was talking about how he thinks that matchup's free for him. So like one of us has to be wrong, but I think he's probably right since he's playing that matchup more than I've ever played it. So
Okay.
and you don't get to fourth for no reason, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So like he's probably right on that front, and I would not know much of the theory in that matchup. So I'm just like I'm terrified. I have no idea what to do.
Uh-huh.
But one second Jackson won, I was like, okay, at least I'm in my comfort zone.
Yes.
I get to play against Sokka.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, oh god, okay. It's Jackson Wong. This man's a beast.
Yes.
No one gets 7-0 Luffy's out of pure luck, right?
Yeah. No.
So like this man has been absurd in like almost every event he's played.
Mhm.
I cannot imagine a better person to go to Nats with. Obviously, he's been representing or not Arizona, the U.S. and NA for the entire time because
Yes.
he's just that absurd at
Yep.
the game. So I was looking forward to it, but I had to wait for like 2 hours before we were getting on stream. So I had to spend some time just like talking to people, just hanging out, trying to unwind a little bit before going on camera. But at this point, like we own a Kaido. Like
Yeah.
this is kind of just like everything's there. We're going to Worlds. We have a bunch of finalist promos. It's kind of all absurd.
Uh-huh.
I'm just there to have a good time. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to being on camera, drawing pretty well, and then just like seeing how well I can do against the best.
Yeah, from that moment, you're
Um,
like, I have accomplished what I set out to do. That probably helped you wind down a little bit, knowing that just like that pressure you're putting on yourself, like your goals, your goals when you're going into a tournament, that's kind of pressure. That's the way I look at it. It's a little bit of pressure you like to put on yourself, at least for me. So it's like, oh, this tournament I want to do this good. So it's like, okay, let me try to perform to that level. That's how I, kind of think about it. So, as soon as you hit that, or at least for me, it's like, oh, I did what I set out to do. I can, play freely, play for fun. Because there's a lot of stakes on the line, especially this tournament. Biggest tournament in the North America ever, biggest prize pool. So I mean, it is a lot of pressure just in that in itself, right?
100%. Yeah.
Um,
It was absurd how much pressure there was every single amount or every single game. I was just like, I cannot think about the dollar amount of these games. I used to like when I played in like Treasure Cups or regionals, like when you think about your round nine or your round 10, you're playing a card game for thousands of dollars. Like you're playing for a
thousands.
serial Luffy.
Hmm.
So like when I thought about those, I was like, this is kind of absurd, but like I can't think about that right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And then this was like a different order of magnitude when I was playing these games, and I was just like,
It's like, oh,
I can't think about this right now. I got to think about anything else.
it's like I'm in top 32. If I win this one, I get maybe an extra $20,000. No, probably an extra
Yeah,
30,
it's
40.
just
It's like,
I can't do that.
I wish I was in that position. But
So
okay,
insane.
so let's talk about this last match. You versus Jackson Wong, amazing
Hmm.
player. I did an interview with him, so if you guys haven't seen that, go check that out. It's on my channel. Amazing player. You know, how did it go? Give me the breakdown.
So yeah, this is the one time I have to be first when I don't want to be against
Yes.
Sokka, but what can you do about it? My opening hand is like kind of insane. It was just like Shura, Ohm, Gadatsu, like seven drop and L. Like I'm having the things I want.
Uh-huh.
So like I'm not complaining whatsoever. And then the game kind of goes scripted in like the favorable draw from my end,
Hmm.
where like he kind of stumbles a little bit in the mid game. I have seven drop and L, it makes things kind of awkward. And I'm like in a very comfortable position during that like middle to late game where like I have a fair amount of big bodies, have a couple of blockers. He can't realistically kill me.
Hmm.
So like I'm just trying to apply the most amount of pressure I possibly can. Um, the developmental turns were very scripted, and like near the end of the game, I hit a Shura out of life, and it hit an Amaru, and then it went to my turn when I had a bunch of attacks on the board,
Uh-huh.
and I had a Shura in my hand, and I top deck another Shura.
Oh,
So at this point, this game's been seen by a lot of people at this
yes,
point.
yes.
But at this point, I'm like, I can't die. I want to have some fun, have a little bit of style points in
Hmm.
game one. So like I hit him with one guy to make sure he blocks with one blocker when he has two other ones.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just like, let's just have some fun. Play one Shura, whiff. And I'm like, oh, you hate to see it. And then I kind of rub my hands a little bit, try to find the second one. And then I find the Amaru on like the 10th card in my deck. And I'm just like, all right, this is a good time. All right. Then I reveal it. And then like I have deterministic lethal because he whiffed on a brand new the turn before,
Hmm.
which was like super brutal. But like the fact that I was able to go like 8, like 11, and I still have 5 attack swing made it like very trivial for me to go for
Yeah.
lethal, which was nice.
Yeah.
That game was just like, okay, I've stolen a game that I really shouldn't have because that game is like super like play draw dependent. Whoever's first or second usually gets to dictate who wins for the most part. It
Yes.
feels that
Yes.
lopsided.
Yeah.
Um, Game two, he thrashes me. Like that game was not close. Like he has a lot of answers. He plays extremely technically well, and I was like, oh god, I'm
Hmm.
not looking forward to the next game three. I did not draw much top end, which is like what was me. I guess I've drawn plenty all day, so
Hmm.
I'm not going to complain too much about that. But he was able to dismantle me, has a Mancheri when I'm very low resource, and the
Yeah.
game's like very over from there. Game three was the fun one. Um, Keep in mind, I've had Ohm Dog game one and game two
Hmm.
because I'm lucky like that. Then game three, my hand has Ohm, so I'm just like, let's just keep going.
Yeah.
And my hand's still very interesting. It's a very like aggro, very level hand
Hmm.
where it's like Ohm Dog and I have an Anel, and then my Shura finds a Gadatsu. So like I still have like the very early aggressive start, which I
Yes.
really like in that matchup. But throughout that entire first couple turns, I think I just draw like 2 Yamatos like immediately and a Katakuri.
Oh.
So my hand was like really weird where it was just like I wanted my hand to be aggro,
Uh-huh.
but all of a sudden my hand gets up being really controlling and I
Yes.
don't have the counter to defend my board.
Uh-huh.
So what I end up doing was trying to like get as much value as I can with my board. try not to defend it because I know he's gonna be able to kill it. That's his
Hmm.
entire deck
Yeah,
does. He's
yeah,
gonna go Hina Luchi and my entire
yep.
board dies. So I'm gonna try to get as many counters and as much life as I possibly can extract while I have these guys, and then afterwards, just like hope these big bodies get there.
Hmm.
He obviously like the game goes kind of as I scripted in my head, where he kind of deals with a bunch of my small
Hmm.
stuff. Um, but afterwards, after playing my first Yamato to kill his 4-drop Kuzan, um, I mean, like a bunch of people have talked about this. I think Jackson's also mentioned this in a few podcasts about like he messed up a little bit in terms of just like Sakazuki shrinking math and wasn't able to kill my first Yamato. And then the train just kept on coming. It was just like, you gotta play another one. You gotta play another one. The Yamato train is just like so hard to beat because
Hmm.
like there is no winning. Because if you're gonna try to starve me while I keep playing 9 costs that kill your bodies,
Yeah.
you're never going to win. And if you put me to one to try to kill me, then my Yamatos get even more insane. So he's in this
Yes.
weird catch 22.
Yeah.
I think you imagine that or had that experience
Yeah.
plenty of times. It's just like so unbeatable.
Yeah, yeah, you know,
Um,
you chain them. It's like chaining 10 moms, right? But not to that extent. But it's like, similar experience.
it is definitely the same experience.
um,
Um,
yeah,
so like after the second one and the second one stuck, I was just like, I was like nervous. Like this is actually going to happen. Like I have
yes,
no idea how this happened.
yeah, yeah,
And then once I played the third one and I countered out of an attack at the first one, like I was just like, okay, this game is like actually over. This is absurd. And then try to end the game in the most fun way possible with a 19k swing for sure. Um, we have like I'm not entirely sure if it's rude or not, but a lot of us in Arizona end up if we're trying to go for a lethal and we have it guaranteed, we try to make the attack be as small as possible to make it
uh-huh,
guaranteed.
uh-huh.
So like what I like to end up doing a lot of games, just like I'm playing it with friends, is like have a Shirahoshi in play, put 10 Dawn on it,
Tendon.
and then swing
Yeah,
with it.
yeah,
uh, if I had a Shirahoshi, I might have just done it just for the fun, but I had only big guys, so you gotta make the biggest swing you got.
yeah.
So
You have to. I mean, biggest stage, biggest tournament, biggest payout. You have to just,
yeah,
you know,
100%. It was such a wild experience, and the adrenaline was at an all-time high. That game was just like so numbing in terms of just like I can't believe this actually happened. I'm not
yes.
entirely sure what to do with myself. I'm just like super happy to be
Hmm.
here. And everything else afterwards was just like a blur, to be completely honest. Being on stage, I barely remember. Like my trip back home, I barely remember. It was just like, I can't believe this happened. What in the world just happened to me?
Yeah, and I don't blame you, right? The adrenaline is just it's like you said, at all time high. So it's like when you're experiencing those emotions and you're feeling that, it's kind of hard to uh, be fully present in what you're doing because you're just like on this high, right? You're on cloud nine. Um, so it's been a couple weeks since the tournament, like two weeks,
Yes.
3 weeks. Has it settled in yet? Like, can you believe that you won? Like, what do you feel right now? Like, give me
I'm
something.
I still feel like the same. Like I don't feel like I'm a better player all of a sudden because this happened. I still think I'm a fine player. I still think that a lot of people in NA are way better technical players than I am. I just got lucky with the right deck building decision at the right time. I think my deck was pretty well positioned, especially with like the happenstance that came out with no deck list in top 64.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of things just lined up at the right time to make like my deck and my play style very very lucrative for me, basically.
Hmm.
But I'm feeling great. Like the fact that I won is settling in a little bit more now,
Uh-huh.
being a little bit more cocky at locals kind of
Yep. Yep.
thing. But it's still ultimately just like a lot of same old, same old. I'm still like loving the game the same amount, and I'm looking
Hmm.
forward to playing even more.
Yeah. No, I feel you. Like when I won my first one, how I felt winning my first regional is probably how you felt winning Nats because uh for me personally, I had never really gotten too many results, maybe some top 64s. I don't think I cracked top 32 when they were giving out invites. And so all of set three, I was on Zoro just trying to get the invite because, before it was a 2 round buy, it was an invite list.
Hmm.
So I didn't get it. And so here comes OPO4. I'm trying to do the same. I'm not getting results. I think I started off playing Whitebeard, getting no results. And then I actually go from making like the worst, most noob mistake round three of blocking like a 5K that my opponent did on me with a 6K blocker, and then he just goes 10K with Chirahoshi, and I didn't have the counter, you know,
Oh, Jesus.
and I had like 9K, and I'm like, and then that following week is when I win, right? So it's like I don't know how I went from being like the worst player ever to like just winning on a tier 2 deck, you know, and at the time I had to play the number 2 ranked on Limitless for the win. So I was like, you know, I couldn't believe it. Even now, I still can't believe that I actually won one, right? But it was
You and
crazy.
me both.
Um, you won the biggest one. First of all,
That's
congratulations. Like that is not an easy thing to do. You know, that's
I
you know,
appreciate it. It was a grind, but it was such a fun tournament that I definitely do it again. But like level of fun is kind of subjective because I was the one like winning. So
yeah. You know, you know, when it comes to my fun is winning.
sure,
That's
yeah.
why I don't take this game as seriously as I can, just because I don't have the time to. But I try to be as competitive as possible because if I'm winning, I'm having the most fun. I have some buddies where they like to play certain decks and they're having the most fun. I like to win. If I'm winning, I'm having the most fun. That's me. Um,
That's fair.
but
That's pretty fair.
yeah, no, I enjoyed watching you throughout the whole event. How many matches did you actually get streamed for from the Top Cut?
It was absolute. Besides finals, just big old goose egg. Zero games on camera, which was
That's
like super weird.
that's good though, right? Because like you go on stream, it's a little bit of extra pressure. You're on stream, everyone's watching you. Um,
Oh, sure, that's fair. I've been on camera enough that I don't really mind it. But there's like bigger names in terms of people to be on camera. I think they targeted more bigger
gotcha.
names, I think, for a lot of stuff like that. So that makes sense.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about your prizings, real quick.
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
You got like 1,000 packs. You got so many packs.
God, the packs were so absurd. Like I had to like have multiple envelopes. I stuffed everything in my bag, but I was also being very careful about
Yeah,
it because
yeah.
like the packs were worth so much.
Hmm.
I ended up opening a lot of like the participation packs, like the championship event
Hmm.
packs and stuff like that. And I've been like trying to slowly sell everything else. Um, the pricing was worth way more than I thought it was. Um,
Yeah.
Admittedly, the second like I won, I just did not want to have that much kind of value on me, and
Yes.
I really wanted to fire sell everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends were just like, just do not. This is an adrenaline rush. You can get way more value out of
Hmm.
this,
Hmm.
and I'm super happy that my friends told me not to.
Yes.
Um, I have not sold, or just as a disclaimer, I have not sold the of the four finalist packs.
Hmm.
So like the cards that have like the beige, the killer, the basil.
Hmm.
I've sold one, but I still have three of those, and I still have my Kaido.
Gotcha.
But aside from that, of the stuff I've sold, I have made over six figures, which
Wow.
is like absurd, which is so insane. I
That is
It still
insane.
boggles my mind.
And you still have the Kaido, you
uh,
said?
I still have the Kaido.
There's no way. That is
That's
actually
what I'm
insane.
saying.
That's insane. Oh, all right. So I know what I know my goal is next year.
And that's next year.
Yeah, no, I mean
It is where it's
congratulations.
at.
Like I'm so happy for you. You're an amazing dude. Talking to you here shows me that. You're humble. You play a Nell.
There we go. I appreciate it.
Um,
Uh,
but yeah, are you excited to go to Japan and play? Are you excited?
I am super excited. I'm not I'm entirely sure if I'm more excited just to be in Japan and hang out
Uh-huh.
or to just play the best of the best. I think like both of those are really exciting propositions, and I just don't know which one I'm more excited for.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a good thing though.
but
That's a good thing.
yeah, it's a great thing. It's coming up in the next couple weeks. There's so many decisions to make,
Hmm.
and like I'm not entirely sure like what I want my exact list to be. I'm not even sure if I'm playing a Nell at this
Hmm.
point. I'm just
Hmm.
like not entirely sure what exactly I think my tournament's going to look like.
Yeah.
But I'm after this, I'm going to play some more games. I'm going to be grinding
Yeah.
just to make sure I know what I want to be doing.
Uh-huh.
There's been a huge purple Luffy like resurgence in NA and like the rest of the world too. So I gotta look into that a little bit more too. So just like test a bunch of different matchups,
Yeah.
be a little more comfortable with like the parts of the format I haven't explored as much when I was playing only NL.
Hmm.
So it should be fun. And Jackson Huang is probably going to get some redemption there, but I'll do my best to like hold on to my title.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it sounds like you're going to be well prepared. Um, both you and Jackson are probably the best representatives we can have going over there. You take this super serious. You train and play test way more than anyone I know. Uh, Same with Jackson Wong, right? Like you said, 7 serial Luffy's is an insane amount. 7? Like, come on.
I, I don't even get into that event. I think I've gotten into like 9 total. Like the fact that he has 7 is just like so wild.
Yeah. All right. So before we go, I'm gonna give you a chance to, shout out anything you want. I really appreciate you coming on. I've had a blast. Getting to meet you and speaking to you. You're an amazing player. I hope we can definitely continue this relationship. So thank you again for coming on to my channel and speaking to me. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. And if you ever need anything as well, you can always hit me up and I'll help you as much as possible. Right. So.
I really appreciate that, and I'm really happy to be on this. Shout out to a bunch of the Arizonan people that made this possible. Shout out to Cross AI. That man is absurd at the game. I don't think you understand how bad I was when I started playing in OPO2, and just like talking to him about how to play the game
Yeah.
elevated me to a different level.
Yeah.
So if you want some people to teach you how to play that game, definitely talk to him. Shout out to Eggman. That man has single-handedly kind of created content to help proliferate deck lists and
Mm-hmm.
like everything else to the rest
Oh
of
yeah.
the world, which
Yeah.
is
He does
like
a lot.
absurd. That man grinds like no other. I can shout out every single Arizonan here, but like that's the main people I want to do. If you want to reach or follow me, I'm on Twitter right now at Yonas OPTCG.
Mm-hmm.
Be on the lookout. I'm gonna be posting a lot more coaching things and like ways to improve at the game post Worlds. I'm just kind of in a testing mindset for right
Mm-hmm.
now. But I might also be featured in a couple of Cross AI's videos upcoming, so definitely be on the lookout. And I'll be working with a lot more people moving forward.
Nice. Well, that is going to be the end of this video, guys. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you go down right now and check, please check. 70% of our returning viewers are not subscribed to our channel. So if you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. We upload daily. We're the most consistent One Piece YouTubers out there right now. We upload daily, guys. You guys will not miss a video every single day. We're hitting those marks. Like this video. Again, shout out to Yonas for hopping on with us. Like this video, comment down below if you want to see me interview any other great top players. I'll definitely do that for you guys. Let me know in the comments, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.